Hey everyone, Terms here back with a follow-up video for Doiteauras. I wanted to wait a little bit to see how the first video has done and has impacted the community. Looks like a lot of you have enjoyed the video. Looks like it's been shared quite a bit, so thank you for doing that. And I hope this video helps expand your knowledge base on what's been added to the add-on in the last week or two. So essentially there was an update that came out, and what happened is the creator Doit, he added some things that improve the experience and make things so much better. Good example is there's now a test all button here that you can push, and when you enable it, it shows everything on your screen at once so you can see what's going on. And I think this is pretty cool because when I was building out my Doiteauras, there was a lot of things that I was trying to tinker with, a lot of things I was testing, and it's still not 100% perfect, to be quite honest. There's a lot of errors, more so just mistakes with the way I have things overlaid, and I'm still having to spend some time and work on that, but it's not really impacting overall performance, and most of what you see here is quite impactful in my raids and my rotations, how I play, etc., etc. And now I'm starting to repeat this process on my priest, on even other servers. I was able to port this to a 1.12 stock server and even use it there too, but that's for a totally different video. Let's turn off the stop test because everything is still working as it should. Standard rotation here, rupture into missiles. You could see that things will proc over time, arcane concentration, my ring procs, but this is working. Now, something else that Doit added was if I go to edit my group 1, just my main rupture icon here that appears over time, this one, when I click on edit, you'll notice that there's a grid. Yes, there is a grid now for this add-on, which is amazing because I know a lot of you probably want to make sure things are perfectly aligned and you want to work with a grid to make sure it fits with your other add-ons. For example, I use PFUI, my interface, it's not that unique in theory. I know a lot of you have wanted to, mirror it and use it. I've done my best to keep it quite clean, but I think over time there are better ways to optimize. But for my environment and setting, this works really well. And I think the grid is super useful when it comes to moving things around on screen. So that's definitely a big add, and I think that's really cool. Now, something else here that is right in front of me is group state. This was added too, which allows you to set it to any, not in a group, in a party, in a raid, or in both a party and a raid. And I think this is really helpful as well, because a lot of this stuff is not necessarily useful in certain environments. Like, for example, I don't like having my Juju Flurry always on. So, for example, I can make sure that Flurry is only on in a raid. And so if I close this now, it's not going to show up. The icon, of course, will be shifted to the right, but once I reset it, and it goes off its cooldown, it'll actually show again in the center, so it recenters. And that's pretty cool because half the stuff I don't really need to see if I'm just doing solo things, which is quite rare these days. But for someone like you who might just be doing AQ20s, EG, other dungeons, or just anything in the open world, you might not want to see half this stuff, and this setting allows you to do that. So that's really cool. I had mine set to any for some reason, but I honestly don't ever use it. So I'll just set it to party and raid because I really don't want to be using flurries all the time. So another interesting feature within the grid view is instead of using the position and size options to move everything around, you can actually just click on any icon. And in this case, I'm clicking the first of the group. So for groups, you can click and drag. And when I let go, it'll move everything else with it that follows because these ones are attached to the actual leader. So you can actually click the group leader and then drag it around and you can position much easier. Like this is way better than just having to move it with the toggles. And the toggles sometimes bugged out for me where they'd move, but they wouldn't, show the position properly. I'd have to close the add-on and do a / reload. So this will save a lot of time. So if I wanted to reposition this now, this was set to 0. This was set to -127. And then I would click on stop test and I would close this. And there you go. All done. So that's another cool feature that you can test out within the grid view. So another feature that was added, I noticed it when I was talking about the Juju Flurry, is in here there is temporary weapon enchant, and I almost forgot to share about this. This is essentially for items. If you go to the drop-down menu, you can see there's equipped trinket slots and equipped weapon slots. And this is neat because if I click on equipped weapon slots, I'm going to hit add. And let's go to edit. I can actually go here to temporary weapon enchant and I can choose enchanted, and icon text enchant uptime remaining. Let's see what this says. There it is. Okay, so because I did a brilliant wizard oil on my weapon, this is now showing. And let's go back in there, and let's just say I'm blind as a bat, and I need this to be 100 in size because I'm crazy. And let's move it horizontally a bit. There we go. And then if you wanted to, you could have it appear when, like, on the same spot when you don't have the enchanted buff, like the weapon buff up, and that can then be applied on your screen. So that's pretty cool. Since I do use VCB though, I think I'll stick to this, but this does look a bit nicer for interface sort of wise. You can actually just have the text on the icon instead of having it below with the way VCB is, but it depends. Like, that's a very minor detail. Okay, so now I want to talk about another feature that was added, and this is the final feature that I'll talk about today. It's the fixed option for groups. So normally I have it set to prio, and the way that would work, and I'll just give you an example here. You saw that my mage armor was to the far right here. If I remove it, it'll reappear here, second. And you'll be looking at this and thinking, well, on my order of the list of things, mage armor is actually fourth, and T is actually number 6, and then mana pot 7. But this order, it's looking like Rupture's 1, Mage Armor's 2, T is 3rd, and Manapot's 4th. So the way this actually works is this is based on the prio, and the prio just bases it on what comes first and what appears next. And it will stay this way until you either use it or something else occurs, or you do a reload or you die. Depends on your settings, right? Now, if you set it to time, a little different, but for what I want to talk about is the new fixed feature, which means it's basing it off its positioning on the order here, right? So you can already move them based on these arrows. So if I move Mage Armor up, it'll be 3rd in line. If I move it to 2nd, it'll be 2nd in line. Pretty cool. I will put it back for this example, but you can see now that it's 4th in line, and that's because it's here on the prio. If I was to drain my mana at 75% mana, which I'm already below, the T should appear, but it doesn't. Below 65% mana pot should appear, but it doesn't. And then if I get to 25% mana, which I'm almost there, Evocation will appear. But that's not appearing either. Now it should because it's 5th in line. But because 6 and 7 are not appearing, the reason for that, and I'll do a reload just to show this, because I think Evocation will show once I do that. Just to make sure. Nope, it's not showing. It should show. But what's going on here is I have the limit of aura set to 5. If I set it to 7, these two will appear, because you're allowing 7 things to appear. And so that's the way you can use fixed if you want things to operate based on a top to bottom order. And so this could be useful for your debuffs, or more so the buffs you have on the casting bar above that I've made. But really, I think these are best suited for prio and or time, just the way they operate. And so it really comes down to the way you want this to work. But I think in the end, all these features that I've just been covering are super useful for making sure that you can optimize the best setup. So that's it for the video. These are some of the things that I've caught onto with Doiteauras in the recent update. And I'm just going to say there's a lot more coming. It's looking really great already. And the amount of time that has been spent on this add-on by the founder has been wild. And so I think all of us should go ahead, give him a big thank you for this, and let's keep playing away and tinkering. Feel free to let me know what you've been working on with the actual add-on in the comments, and I'll be back with more videos covering any updates and changes that I do with my own setup very soon. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.